Good
Go.
afternoon, dear Zach. Thank you so much for agreeing to give an interview to the Foundation to Battle Injustice and the Federal News Agency. Please tell our viewers a few words about yourself and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, um, I'm pitching myself every day just to know you, and it's an honor to know you. And seriously, and it's an exciting moment for me.
You just want to
Thank you
see
for the
how I
opportunity.
blush in real, huh? Thank you, Zach. I'm
You're
very excited to
modest
meet
as
you as
well.
well. Thank you.
My name is Zach Novak. My real first name is Zlatko, but everybody calls me Zach Novak, and I've been using that nickname ever since New York. Born in New Jersey, lived all my life in New York. My first tour was in Bosnia and Sarajevo and Zvornik, and many Russian volunteers came to help us out, and it was an incredible experience meeting the guys. And I miss them very much, especially get emotional, the guys who passed away, Sasha Rus and Boris Valeri. And I want to thank Russia for coming, leaving their country and helping the brothers, Serbians, brothers and sisters. And they were just outstanding. And the people, we were so happy when we saw them. So this is my thanks, and it's my way of returning the favor of helping out the Russians. So they helped us out, the Serbs, and here I am helping out the Russians. So volunteer at first, then a war correspondent, journalist with Novorussia TV, and then became an English teacher. So it's been a few years now, four years teaching English to students, and I tell them we must learn the language of the enemy. So, but it's been a blast. The kids are great. The adults are great. My range is from 14 to 50, and it's been a blast. What a great experience. Who could imagine from New York and now teaching English in Donbass? It's a dream come true.
I can't be silent about the story you just told me before we started recording it. Who is your most famous English student?
My favorite English student.
Famous.
Favorite.
Famous.
Oh, that would have to be. That would have to be, and I'm so happy, and congratulations, and to the people of Serbia, Alexander Vucic, president of Serbia. Yeah, I was in Pale at the time. It was 92, my first tour, the war in Yugoslavia. And they said, come on, let's do an interview in Pale, which is a beautiful, beautiful mountain region of Bosnia. And I see this tall guy, and he had a great sense of humor. He was really cool, great. And he said, "Zach, let's do an interview." Yeah, sure, cool. But he was like rushing, he was like speaking so fast. And I said, cut, let's cut this, and we're going to do it like this. Take a pause, take a deep breath. Zach, what about this and that? So I kind of made him do that. And he just got so happy and excited, and I just gave my answers. It was really fun, exciting. And when I came back home after a few tours, and there's this guy on TV, I think it was CNN or I forget what station it was. I'm like, Mom, Vucic, he's president of Serbia now. And he was like this skinny, tall dude. Journalist in Bosnia, great guy, and it's so exciting to know him in that sense. But I do wish to see him again, give him a big hug, and what he's doing for Serbia and the alliance, which is very important. The alliance with Russia, he continues, and with all the pressure, Mira, the pressure that Serbia has with NATO countries surrounding it. And still no sanctions, and yes, we're still together, and we're never going to break that. And spasiba, President Putin, for helping with Kosovo. And I have, Mira, this is very important. I have a lot of Serbian enemies. They hate Vucic. especially a couple of guys here in the battlefield here in Donbass. They kind of really hate me, and they said, Zach, Vucic is bad. He's going to be with NATO. He's going to give up Kosovo. They've been telling me this for what, 7 years, and he's still fighting for Kosovo. He thanks Putin, President Putin, and he's not with NATO. He said no way to NATO. So there you go. I mean, the guy is great. He's awesome, and just haters out there.
Yeah, always haters. And it's such an honor to know somebody who taught Serbian president English. Anyway, you were born and raised in the US. However, as soon as the NATO bombs began to fall on Bosnia, you returned to your historical homeland, where you served for 3 years. Could you tell us about what you had to go through?
Well, it wasn't like a return. I mean, I only went there on vacation. I never lived there. I wasn't born there. But I went there on vacation as a child and teenager and then a young man. When the war broke out, it was first up in Slovenia and Croatia. And we were watching it and on CNN and all these other stations. And the first refugees were Serbs. You know, they don't talk about that much now, but the first images were Serbian refugees leaving Krajina, Croatia, and it was so horrible. And we're looking at these images, and my mom was a big influence, and she was the one. She's watching TV, and she's looking at me, and she slams the table, and she's like, "What are you doing here? Go help your brothers and sisters." So like, really, Mom? And so she was a big influence. She was really cool. And Mira, very important, in New York, people have to understand, we lived with Croatians, Albanians, and Macedonians, and Bosniaks, understand? So when the war broke out, we were all kind of friends. They, you know, my parents went on picnics with them, and wherever, parties, they came to the house, we went to their house. But when the war broke out, that was it. No more talking. We were deadly enemies. My father was very peaceful. He kept in contact, and they loved him. Chica Bora, you know, he was really cool. But my mom, she was notorious. She didn't want to talk to any of them, and she was fighting for Serbia. People have to understand, my mom, Makedonka from Skopje, but she was born during Krajina, Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Mm-hmm. So this was pro-Serbian. And my aunt, she was born during Tito, Communist Yugoslavia. So you had to see the fights at the dinner table. My mom's monarchist. Yeah, my mom's monarchist. My aunt is a communist, and it was crazy. So you have to understand, in America, it was a mixture and, you know, getting violent, really, fights on the street. I remember we had death threats, so many death threats. So seeing the images, Mom said, you got to help your brothers and sisters, and packed my bags and left, and met Captain Dragan, awesome guy, great hero of Serbia, special forces in Australia. Some talk that he did a lot of work down in South America. Really, you're talking Spetsnaz, you're talking ultimate super special forces type of guy. And I met him in person, and he's like, "You ready to go?" And at first he was like, "Zach, I like what you're doing," you know, because I brought a lot of stuff, toys, cigarettes, food, and even money, you know, from Chicago. And I love what you're doing. I'd rather you do that than the battlefield. And I said, "Captain, I don't feel it's enough. Let me do that. I'll, you know, back and forth, and the battlefield." And he's like, "Okay, let's do it." So Zvornik was my first tour, and it was really deadly. At times even more dangerous than Sarajevo. So yeah, the images, my mom influence, and seeing the first refugees, seeing the Ustasha, the Croatians, the Nazi Croatians. People don't, you know, you think the Nazis are bad here. The Croatians were even 10 times worse. But then I'm seeing images here now, some of our Russian prisoners being stabbed in the eye and gouged and cut in the face, and now it's the same. I wouldn't be surprised if they were Croatians doing that, you know. So Bandera Nazis and Croatian Ustasha, they're the same crap. Deadly.
At the beginning of 2015, you arrived in Donetsk People's Republic, where you began your career as a journalist. What brings you here?
Okay. So after doing, what was it, about 5 tours in Bosnia, and I got a little trouble. I fell in love with my Romanian Kalashnikov. And I told Voivod, I want to take it home with me, you know. He said, Zach, are you sure? It's crazy. So he took it to a gunsmith, and they took several pieces out. And so it was not operational. So took it home, New York, put it up, and can't trust everybody, you know. My mom was like, you can't trust everybody. And one just called the FBI, and the FBI rushed in with their guns, and I'm like, guys, please. Mom, Dad collapsed. Mom was white as a ghost, and it affected us so much. I lost many jobs, and I lost many friends because of that incident. And but I needed to keep my nose clear. Everybody was saying, you know, Zach, keep your nose clear. That's it. No more politics. I was really trying, you know, but it's so hard when I've been an activist almost all my life, you know, and being a member of SHARP, Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. We were beating up Nazis in New Jersey, you know. That was huge. That was even in the newspaper. Palestinians, you know, I believe, you know, freedom for Palestine. So I was at demonstrations in Washington and stuff like that. So people were again telling me, you know, cool it, chill out, relax. I became a soccer coach, you know, with my job and a soccer coach, and knowing the enemies that I had, you know, Mira, you know, the Croatians, Albanians, and Bosniak. Now imagine I get my United States Soccer Federation coaching license, real coaching. I was so excited. Okay, you know what? I'm going to clear my mind, no politics. And my kids, they're like, Zach, Coach Zach, wow, cool. And then I see this one kid dashing, you know, sprinting back and forth. And I'm like, what's he wearing? And he's wearing a Croatian soccer jersey. And then I see this other kid, he's hugging me, an Albanian. And then a Bosnian. And I started crying, you know, because these were my enemies, you know, these were our enemies. And there they are hugging me. And Zach, they became champions, you know, we were, and one Croatian mother came up to me. She said, Zach, I know who you are, I know what you did, but I want to say thank you for what you're doing to my son, for my son, you know, becoming a better soccer player. So it was very emotional, and I told this story to my mom, and she was crying. It's like everything goes in circles, you know. It's so hard. People need to understand, if a Russian soldier goes back home to Russia, right, back home, and a Serbian goes back to his home in Serbia, wherever the battles were, you're in a healthy, normal, common, atmosphere. Whereas in New York, I come home to New York after a war, I have enemies around me. We had death threats. We had a bullet shot through our liquor store, you know, and my dad was shot. And some people said that Croatians actually paid these thugs, you know, so, but who knows, me, you know, but anyway, tried to calm down, and then Donbass erupted. And 2014, Mom and Dad passed away. I miss them dearly. Mom was a big influence. Dad, so cool, so peaceful. But Mom was a fighter, you know. She didn't give a crap about anybody. Always fighting for Serbia, and then always loved Russia. She spoke pretty good Russian, by the way. And mom and dad were in the hospital. They both passed away, which the medical, I mean, the system is horrible in America, trying to help people. Medication is so expensive and all of that, pharmacy, it's just pills for $30 each. It was just ridiculous. So once mom and dad passed away, mom was a proud woman. She didn't want any burial, nothing like that. She didn't want people walking on her. She always felt like she was an aristocrat, and I believed it. She was so cool. And so they wanted cremation, and I took their ashes, decided, because Donbass exploded, took their ashes and first to Skopje, Macedonia, and spread their ashes in the river Vardar, the famous river Vardar. And now they're home. My relatives were so happy I did that because they're back home, right, mom and dad. And took a little bit of ashes of dad's and to his Kunovo Selo, was the name of where he was born, his birthplace. And started arguments with my relatives. I'm heading to Novorossiya, and they're like, Zach, no way, you're here to retire, fix your dad's house. And no, I just got to help out. No, you did your Bosnian thing. No more. That's it. Please, enough. We finally negotiated, and I said, okay, look, 3 months. Let me go there and promise I'll come back. And 2015 till now, I haven't been back. So, yeah.
For the last 8 years, residents of Donbass have been subjected to shelling and bombing by the Ukrainian army almost daily. In your opinion, for what purpose did the Ukrainian political leadership give orders to exterminate the civilian population of Donbass?
I stated in an interview a few days ago, I don't want to scare people, I don't want to sound religious, okay? I've seen evil. I saw the face of evil. This is not just a war. It is scary. We're facing an enemy that is not human. To constantly bomb and do the things that they do to people, whether it's eye gouging. I remember even Croatian Ustasha, the same, they are working together. These are foot soldiers who have hoofs, understand hoofs, doing the bidding for NATO, Washington, which is again, I don't want to sound creepy, a satanic kind of a seat of power. But I'm serious. This is beyond evil, to do what I saw to Serbians, refugees coming back. I remember one young man, his lips were all cut up. And then his tongue, and he tried to talk. And me and Voivoda, we went to see the exchange of prisoners and some of the refugees. And they made him chew glass. They made him chew glass, understand?
Yeah.
So we're talking about psychos. We're talking beyond evil. And this is their method. Even even Nazi Germany, yeah, they were crazy, but not like this. And this is sort of like psychological warfare, They use this. Well, look, Operation Paperclip, Operation Ratlines. These were secret operations where Americans rescued Nazis from World War II, brought to the U.S., and they were working quickly into the intelligence department, whether it's CIA, FBI, which is later the name, but before different names, and the Nazis were teaching American officials, American intelligence officers, how to conduct methods, psychological warfare. And this is what they're doing today. No difference, but it's gotten worse. They turned it up a gear, you know. But they're going to lose because for Donbass, 8 years of bombing, it just makes us stronger, you know. Yeah, we're pissed off, we're angry. Sometimes people have attitudes, you know, and I'm like, oh, wow, what's wrong with her? Well, Zach, I mean, you know, look at our situation. And yeah, you know, sometimes I need to, and same like Serbia, right? I mean, the Croatians, what they were doing to the Serbs, and then NATO bombing on top of that. And we're still standing. Vucic together with Putin. Then we got China with us. This is the only three that is fighting evil. And for a message to the protesters in Moscow, you better fucking wake up. I'm serious. Because you sold yourselves to the devil. You know, you've been brainwashed. You've been, for who? Where are you running to? And now, and you're leaving Russia? You're embarrassing yourselves. You're not embarrassing Russia. You're embarrassing yourselves. And where are you going? To what country? The same country that are supplying weapons to kill us? Wake up, man. What is wrong with you? You have to first also realize there's sanctions and embargo on Russia. It's not Putin doing this. It's not the economy's fault of Russia's economy. Putin is doing such an amazing thing of keeping it in order. And it's not easy with sanctions embargo. It was the same like Serbia, but you know what? We got to stand our ground. We got to say, you know what? Hey, this is my flag. This is my home. This is my country. My anthem, my history, culture, the whole thing. Stand and fight and defend it, not run away, not protest against it. You've been brainwashed. You've been bought by I've been talking about it for like 4 years. Hybrid warfare. It's coming. It's going to infiltrate you. It's going to infiltrate the media. It's going to infiltrate the public. It's going to hit you hard, but be ready. But you got your Navalny, CIA bastard, people bought into him. The teenagers in Moscow, they messaged me, you know, some of the teenagers who I know from Crimea. I did English program during the summer. Zach, is it true this, and why the bombing, and why? Guys, wake up. Why weren't you asking me these questions for 8 years when bombs were falling on Donbass? Now you're asking questions? Why Russia's doing the special operation? Do you see? Do you understand? This is the problem. You don't say nothing for 8 years when we're being bombed here, and now all of a sudden, oh, we want peace and don't bomb Ukraine. Are you crazy? People got to wake up.
Having extensive experience as a journalist, why do you think the Western media have practically not covered what is happening on the territory of Donbass for the last 8 years?
It's not their agenda. Their agenda is to wipe us out. Their agenda, like I said before, it's practically evil. It's something to wipe out. Sure, we could say about religion, culture, but another thing, you know, sometimes I have lectures at universities. Teachers invite me, and it's really cool. People need to wake up because they don't like people like Russia, the country like Russia, because of its history. We got an amazing history. And I have a lot of fights on Facebook and other social media. 1862, Civil War in America, North and South. Abraham Lincoln, with his wife, took off his hat and waving it, thank you. His wife paraded them, and there were galas and everything. Do you know who came and helped the North in the Civil War? Russia. 1862, the Russians came and helped America defeat the South, the Confederates. People forget about that. You should never forget who your friends are, you know? For history, Russia was always friends with America until after World War II, but now it's gotten ugly. The thing is, America doesn't like anybody who's bigger and better or a fighter. Russia has a great history, great culture. Serbia withstanding the Ustaša creations and NATO bombing. America doesn't like Vucic. They want him dead. They don't like Serbia. They want them dead. Because anybody who stands up and looks pure and good, because we were pure and good. We never attacked anybody. Did you see Serbia attack anybody across the border? Russia? No. So this is their thing. They hate something that is pure and good. And that's what I've been saying for a long time.
How do you assess the influence of the United States and NATO countries on the 8-year aggression by the armed forces of Ukraine directed against civilians? Is it possible to say that the NATO countries were trying to push their expansion to the east in this way?
It's not just a push to the east. It's just to annihilate us. It's to the east, and then it's going to go further. That's their agenda. And President Putin, the hero, the man, he's a man of peace. He's not just the president of Russia. He's a world leader. And he saw it. He saw it. He's a tactician. All right, we know he's ex-KGB. I love it. It's so cool. But he saw the deeper plan. This was not just for Donbass. They're going to go further. They already intel was released that they want to wipe out even China. You know, so they're going to go for China next. They're going to try to win this, eliminate Russia, go after China, destroy North Korea, and of course surrounding Serbia. They're going to eat that up. So this is very important right here to defeat NATO. NATO needs to be crushed.
The long-term aggression by the Kiev regime resulted in a special military operation on the territory of Ukraine, which has been going on for more than a month now. Do you think the Western countries, which have been financing and training Ukrainian servicemen for so many years, initially planned to provoke a conflict with Russia?
But they are I mean, if NATO and Europe was really for peace, and all you bastard protesters in Moscow and anti-Putin, if you really are talking about peace, if you really want peace, why are you sending weapons?
Right.
Why are you sending the most dangerous murderers? And these are not just professional soldiers. These are people probably released from jail. I'm not joking. I've seen it before. Released from prisons. These are maniacs, and you release them all over Ukraine. This is the peace you want? Jens Stoltenberg, I swear if I ever see this man, NATO talks about peace. The European Union talks about peace. How? How are you talking about peace? Protesters in Moscow, what peace when they keep sending in weapons and deadly mercenaries and criminals and murderers? This is their agenda, and it's evil. They just want to wipe us out.
There is indisputable evidence that the United States allocated hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to train and supply Ukrainian nationalists, just as they financed Albanian terrorists during the conflict in Yugoslavia. What do you think the United States was trying to achieve by financing extremely radical groups?
We could even go beyond that. We could talk about ISIS. Right? I mean, we can talk about terrorists throughout the world.
Why is this happening?
Again, These are foot soldiers doing the bidding for something that is so evil and satanic. It is to rule the world, just to rule the world and cause. But feeling no guilt, seeing children blown up to pieces, they don't feel it. It is nothing for them. The slaughter that they have committed throughout history, the American regime, including many countries of the EU, they don't feel it. They don't care. They want us gone. And if you talk about the Albanians, look at their track record. I mean, you got cutting up Serbians to get organs and selling them on the market, the prostitution ring in Kosovo, the Albanians that controlling that part of Kosovo, and the drug running. So the U.S. did this. This is nothing new. I mean, the U.S. regime has been, since with Central America and South America, the things they've done down there are horrific. Just to put some junta Nazi dictator, we have Pinochet. We could talk about Pinochet. We could talk about El Salvador. That was a big subject, a favorite subject of mine. The murder. The Americans murdered their own people. The 5 nuns. I don't know if you remember, 5 Catholic nuns who were slaughtered on the street just to put in a dictator, and blame the communists. But it was the American CIA agents who did that. They're going to do everything possible to put in this junta style, dictatorship style, Nazi style. It's just evil.
Pure evil. What do you think is the true goal of the United States in Ukraine? How likely is it that the development of biochemical weapons was really carried out in American labs in Ukraine?
Yeah, this I did actually a story on it, working with Novorussia TV way back. We learned about the chemical labs. I think maybe 2016 I first discovered and did a large expose on it. Again, chemical warfare. They will use everything. And again, to the protesters in Moscow, you don't know what you're dealing with. Okay, it's not just military. Okay, if what I'm worried about, Mira, what I'm worried about, and I know NATO's going to lose this. We will be victorious. What I'm worried about is the releasing of the chemicals, because they want us dead. Listen to me. They want us dead. And I'm talking to the protesters in Moscow. Wake up. Because we will win this war. For sure. Guaranteed. They don't like to lose. They will release chemicals. And that's what I'm worried about. They were prepared for this. This was plan B for them.
Well, we hope that it will never happen.
Please, I hope not.
Since the beginning of the special military operation on the territory of Ukraine, anti-Russian propaganda in the Western media has only intensified. Russian citizens living abroad regularly become victims of Russophobia. In your opinion, who benefits from inciting anti-Russian sentiments in society?
Who benefits?
Yeah.
NATO and America, they benefit, they love it, they want this, they want us exterminated. Okay? Do you remember the Twin Tower attacks?
Yeah.
I was working as a private investigator, and it was a husband and wife type case. I had to follow, I forget the wife or the husband, and I was in Staten Island. Right, you know Staten Island,
yes.
And ferries. Right, I was on the Staten Island side, and I saw smoke from the first building, but then I saw the plane hit the second building, and people went crazy, and just the phones were not working. I remember seeing the people getting off the ferry, and they were pale as a ghost, and just screaming everywhere. And you know what was really funny? The people were screaming like, "Yeah, this is what you get, Bush. This is what you get when you keep talking about war and you keep, all these provocations. This is what we get. And stop." I was really surprised about that. That's pretty cool, and it just shows you how knowledgeable and cool American people can be.
Mm-hmm.
And Moscow protesters should see that and understand that. All right. What happened? How many cool Middle Eastern people that I knew were getting beat up on the streets in America? So many were colleges, universities, Middle Eastern kids getting beat up because of the Twin Towers. They like that. They love that, So, and you're going to tell me what's happening to Palestine, right? But Palestine still survives somehow. The people still are there, And America hates that. They're trying their best to eliminate, but they can't. They can't. There's something good that is, I don't know if you know. Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the verse footsteps.
Yes, I know what the footsteps are.
Right. So it's like all this trouble and where am I? But yet there's someone there protecting. We're still surviving. We're still holding on. And America is trying its best, and EU countries, NATO, are trying their best to quickly eliminate us and stop hearing our voices,
What is this, an attempt to build empire?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what the devil wants, right? I mean, that's what Lucifer and all this, I don't want to sound religious or scary, but
it is what it
God,
is.
Wake up.
Yeah. With the intensification of propaganda, the spread of unreliable news has also intensified, often aimed at discrediting Russian servicemen and their mission in Ukraine. Often, fakes broadcast by Kiev expose Russian servicemen as violent rapists and murderers. Do you think this is how Ukraine is trying to get additional assistance from Western countries?
This was prepared.
In advance?
Absolutely. This was prepared in advance. Hollywood, they know how to play the game, so they're using every trick in the book. We use crises actors. I'm sure you were in the States and you heard about the marathons and everything, and you see the same faces at another place getting blown up, and then the same guy in another town or city.
Yes.
You remember, right? So these are experts in doing this, but this is also part of, like I said, Operation Paperclip, grabbing Nazis from World War II and letting them work in the United States, and how to work propaganda machine. So what I'm worried about when I saw Busha, I'm getting intelligence that people better wake up, because some are dead, some are actors, but the ones that are dead are pro-Russian civilians. And NATO, America, and EU countries are getting away with murder. You're killing our civilians and saying to the world, look what Russia did. So you see, it's like carte blanche. They're giving, do you see how evil that is, how sick that is? Mm-hmm. You're killing innocent civilians and telling the world the Russians did it. That's sick.
It is. At the beginning of a special military operation, a large-scale anti-Russian advertising campaign began in Western social networks. As it turned out later, this campaign was funded by a number of Western organizations, including the International Renaissance Foundation, which is founded by the Open Society Foundation of billionaire George Soros. What do you think about this?
You know, I don't mean to discredit that. You're 100%, but I hate using George Soros always. You know, George Soros always is used either with the Democrats or with the Republicans. You know, so it's always Mira. It's not just George Soros. This is the many elements, many roots elements of the CIA. They are doing this. You know, George Soros is always going to be used as that name. For whatever, and that makes us, and I think we need to stop that because it makes us sound a little bit, George Soros again, George Soros again. Is it funded? It's all CIA. There are different foundations, different USAID groups. You have to be careful with all these humanitarian groups, you know, even Red Cross and all of them. Red Cross, if you Google, again, rat lines, Red Cross was actually helping Croatian Nazis. They were given passports at the Vatican and helping them get to South America. So you have to watch out for all these humanitarian groups, these aid groups. They're all part of it, and they infiltrate, and this is how they get to people, and then they become protesters. Understand, this is all funded by the CIA and many of the underground elements, intelligence elements working to do this. So you don't need to say George Soros. It's more deeper than that.
Gotcha. Thank you. The number of victims of US and NATO war crimes is estimated at hundreds of thousands of people. Dozens of cities were destroyed. Millions of people were forced to leave their homes and flee to escape from NATO warheads. Why do you think this? None of the Western officials, military or government organizations have been brought to justice so far?
The signal was broken in the end. Why the European officials, what dear?
Why do you think none of the Western officials, military or government organizations have been brought to justice so far?
How are you going to bring them to justice when you put guys like Wesley Clark, who bombed Yugoslavia, and made him into a hero? How are you going to put all these great American generals who killed Saddam Hussein, who bombed Iraq, bombing Yemen, how are you going to put them in court when they're portrayed as heroes? You can't. They planned this, and they painted this picture knowing that there's going to be, you know, people, hey, wait a minute, that's wrong, you know. You're going to lose because these guys are portrayed as heroes. So it's impossible. The only way, and President Putin sees this, enough of the humiliation. How could you take away a team's name, flag, going into the Olympics? Olympics said no politics. You keep humiliating a country. You take away its name. Even though I laugh because, what was it, the Olympics before, Russia won, beat up America with no name on it. That's what you get. Embarrassing. But the
our
humiliation.
Power is not only in our flag or in our hymn, you know, our power is in our hearts and souls and our faith.
Sure. Of course it is, of course. But it's still, it's not right. Mira, you know it's not right. to take away our name, to take away our identity, our patches.
Indeed, it's wrong, but you know, even by trying to weaken us, they still don't know what makes us strong.
Sure, but see, we're talking on our side.
Yeah.
They don't think like that. They think, that's the bad guys. Look, this is, again, like I said, to eliminate us, and they're trying so hard, and they're going to portray us as the bad guys, and they are this, General Wesley Clark and all these guys, and it's crazy, but that's what it is.
It's very, very slick.
Oh, absolutely. But again, and Mira, and this is why President Putin saw this and said, enough is enough. Stop humiliating my people, the Slavic people, my country, my culture, my history. You know very well our history. And enough is enough. And he saw slowly and slowly over the years, as an intelligence officer, what American NATO was planning. And perfect special operations at the right time.
The hypocrisy of the Western media is astounding. Commenting on the bombing of Yugoslavia by NATO countries, one of the largest American weekly magazines stated that in this way, a massive bombing attack opens the door to peace. What do you think about this?
Just reading that, just hearing you, how funny does that sound? Let me bomb your country to smithereens, flatten it, kill your people so we can bring peace. It's insane. It's crazy. This is their way of peace? You can't sit down and negotiate. You can't say, hey, wait a minute, let's look at a little historical a little bit here. Kosovo was always crying out. There was not Croatia there. Serbia was a kingdom at first, Why don't you look at that and sit down with all the parties and maybe we can divide this, give this, instead of bombing and sending in murderers to kill. And they do it constantly throughout history. That's their only way is aggression. They can never sit down and talk. EU is made of what? The European Union. This is something good. We're going to open up our borders. Really? You're sending in weapons. What happened to all that transparency and opening up borders and helping and we're good? What a mockery. This was all planned. This was a show. This painting to make us, it's beautiful, it's great, Man, we were brainwashed, many people brainwashed.
Do you think Russia and its allies will be able to rid the world of Western hegemony?
Will defeat it or lead it in a way where...
Will we be able to get rid of it?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what NATO and America fears, so that's why they're trying so hard in this media war. They're going to lose the war. That's why they're pushing this media war, which is powerful. It is powerful. It's going to take time. But we need to be united. We need to talk to our citizens. Stop being brainwashed. Stop being bought by the CIA. You got to unite, because the hybrid war is that, the media war and divide and conquer. They're trying to get to our people, like you see in Moscow, like they did in Belgrade a year or two ago, anti-Vucic crowd, like, what are people doing? Why? Don't you see the guy we put in? He's with us. What are you doing? No, he's lying. He's going to get... This is the problem. The faster we unite, Mira, the stronger we'll be and defeat NATO, defeat the US, and defeat that EU transparency. The faster we unite, that's very important. We need to be united. Every citizen needs to be united.